Hi, this is Julia Davis of Yoga Teachers Forum, and I'm here with Benedict Beaumont, and we are going to chat about the yin and yang of breath. And I know, in fact, Ben, you always love to start these little chats with a breath. So why don't we start with a breath together?
Let's do that, Julia.
I think I love the idea of sharing a workshop with you on the yin and yang of breath, because experiencing breathing practices with you that were dynamic felt comfortable and felt enjoyable. Whereas in the past, I have been encouraged to practice dynamic breathing practices that have felt uncomfortable and have not been easy in my body. And I've always felt much more drawn to the more gentle practices because of my negative experiences with the more powerful ones. So I just would love to hear your thoughts based on what I've introduced.
That's really interesting, actually, Julia. I love that. And that kind of takes me back to my time as a school teacher, actually, when as a teacher you have such an incredible power with the little ones, and you say one negative thing and that's the thing that they will remember for the rest of their lives and put them off something. And something like a dynamic breath practice, like a dynamic yoga practice, like anything physical, it at first might take a little bit of effort because it's something that we're not used to, or something that is unusual. Really, it is a natural part of just being human. That kind of that movement, that flow, that kind of excitement of just being and doing rather than just resting. And when you have a good facilitator that makes it not just not just gives you the confidence, but makes it easy and fun and enjoyable to do, and you kind of feel like you've done something, you've achieved something when you do a dynamic practice. It's a wonderful, wonderful gift that teacher has, that they can give you. They can give you a joy and a love and an excitement about doing something that at first you thought was maybe difficult or not fun or uncomfortable. And when you find out you can do it, it's an amazing, amazing thing to discover.
I'd like to maybe set the minds at rest of anybody who feels they might be in kind of a vulnerable group, or a group that might feel that dynamic breathing practices might not feel right for them. Maybe pregnant women, or I've got a history of colitis, so maybe somebody who has tummy issues, so issues around kind of that might make them feel sensitive about what a dynamic breathing practice might be. Being very, very clear that you're not a medical practitioner, and that if people have been given guidelines as to what isn't okay for them. And also women who are experiencing their period as well, that can be a very sensitive time for, or people who are experiencing a period rather, can be, that can be a tricky time. So maybe speak to that, so that anybody who might feel, I'd love to try a dynamic practice, but I feel sensitive about this. How might we ensure that they can feel comfortable?
Well, that's such a great question as well, Julia. Now, what we do in breath work, we really make it an empowering space where people feel, in their own sovereignty to go to their own depth and to their own pace. And that is kind of almost like a key principle. I'm not, and you're not, definitely not, a sergeant major at the front of the room, marching around. You say, you're not breathing properly, you're not breathing hard enough, you're not breathing quick enough, faster, faster, faster. It's not like that. And no breathwork practice, probably, to be honest, in my mind, there shouldn't be any practice that is like that. Some people really respond and love that kind of atmosphere. But in the long run, even for them, I don't think it's beneficial, because it takes away your own power to make decisions and to make choice to where you want to go. So I'm not a medical professional. My job is really to make a space and to make it comfortable, to make it feel secure for you to go to a depth that you want to go to. And of course, I'll give instructions and I'll give encouragement, because as a facilitator and as a breathworker, that's what I'm here to do. But really, it's always to a place that you feel comfortable with. And of course, for the really dynamic practices, there are some guidelines, some contraindications. So for early or unstable pregnancy, probably jumping up and round might be not the best thing. For conscious breathing, there's some psychological conditions such as schizophrenia and bipolar. But really, there isn't anything that we're going to be doing in this workshop that is going to push people to physical and emotional spaces where it's going to be really uncomfortable.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'd like to, can I ask you a question?
Well, of course you can. Of course you can.
So talking about some people don't enjoy going to those kind of physical spaces or feel scared to go there. What I find these days is many people find it very difficult to go to the kind of very calming and relaxing spaces. You know, there's a lot of people who are go, and find even just lying down in Shavasana for a few minutes at the end of a very intense yoga practice, even then there's something in that says, got to do something. So how do you take people from that very yang space of doing into that space of being, that yin space, Julia? How do you do that?
The breath is really key to that. And it's about noticing. So one of the first practices that can be done is having an awareness of the breath. And it's amazing how interested you can become in the functioning of the breath itself and how that can allow the body to let go. And actually words like relax can be really triggering. Relax! So it's finding language that is permissive and can give people permission to. So often it's considered the done thing to close one's eyes when practicing a gentle practice. That's not necessarily a requirement. And you're absolutely right. If you're buzzed, it can be a real challenge to close your eyes. And you might feel a lot more comfortable with your eyes open in a softer practice. So knowing that there's the permission to have the eyes open in a still practice can be really freeing. And when we come to a quiet practice with the breath, noticing simple things like the difference in temperature between the breath coming in and the breath leaving. Yeah, there is the breath now. The breath is cooler entering than it is leaving. That may not be something that you're able to experience, but there's a likelihood that you can notice a difference between the feeling of the breath coming in and the feeling of the breath leaving. And as soon as there's an opportunity to touch on that, there's an opportunity for the body to settle. And language is key to that, and pace is key to that. So it's my responsibility as a facilitator of calming breathing to enable the practitioner to feel comfortable, to feel at ease, and to feel as if the space is being held for you when you rest. So that's my responsibility. Mm-hmm. And it is my responsibility to ensure that the language that I use is permissive. So Shavasana is a lying down open position with the feet apart. That isn't comfortable for everyone. And that's not a requirement for a restful practice. Lying on the front could be a possibility, or lying with the knees rested into each other and the hand over the belly. When we practice stillness with breath, the temperature is very, very likely to drop. So encouraging a person to have the opportunity to have a blanket or something warm to cover them. It depends. We could be sharing this workshop on a really boiling hot summer's day. We're coming up to summer solstice at the moment, but that may not be the case, and being warm enough is also something that is a good idea.
Mm.
So that you're absolutely right. When you think about soft and gentle practices, there's an awful lot that we need to understand as facilitators to enable that space to feel comfortable and safe. And also with practices like Yoga Nidra, we have a responsibility as practitioners to ensure that that is a place that feels comfortable, and to know that I've certainly practiced yoga and found being in a particular body position has been triggering, or practicing a breathing practice has been triggering, not because the practice has been this huge thing that is really dangerous, but because it's touched a place in me that has caused emotion to emerge. And that can happen at any time with any practice. And being in a position, I mean, that's why it's really lovely that this is a co-shared space, because if someone is triggered, then there's a space for them to go. Mm-hmm. And if that ever happens for anyone in a situation, then it's a really good idea to seek help elsewhere. Neither of us are doctors or sort of, work in the area of that. So it's knowing that if something really hasn't been okay for you, then finding somewhere to unpack that and to work with that in more detail. And
beautiful.
Yeah, that is something that can happen in any practice.
One of the things I'm excited about this workshop is the yin and the yang. So it's got that kind of connotations of like active and passive, of kind of doing and being, but it's also got a kind of male female energy as well, with a kind of the more masculine yang and the kind of feminine yin, and the dance between the two. And I've never done a breath workshop like this before, with a strong feminine energy, embodying that kind of yin side. Then I get to do the active side. I mean, because amongst guys, I'm definitely more on the yin side of things. I'm definitely a more calmer kind of masculine, softer, gentle side. So how do you see that the aspect of kind of masculine and feminine dancing around in the breath, Julia?
With that, it's lovely to look at the breath in the context of yin and yang, because we all breathe, whether we identify as men, we identify as women, or we identify as anything in between. We all breathe. And it's lovely to know that there's masculine energy and feminine energy, but they're not tied up in the male or the female. So actually, we could swap places, and I could be running the dynamic practices, but as a person rather than as a woman, I really enjoy sharing the gentler side. And you could be sharing the more feminine. What will be lovely is for all people to have the balance of yin and yang, so that when we need that yang, or when it's appropriate to feel yang, we have that. So the practices that you're sharing, they're not masculine in that they're better for men, or they're but they're practices that we all and there is I believe there is a truth to the way that we're conditioned, and possibly people who are born boys are conditioned to be more yang, and people who was born as women are conditioned to be more yin. So it's lovely for us to recognize both the yin and the yang in us. And also that people who know me outside of the world of yoga will probably think I'm pretty yang. Actually, I speak quite fast. I'm quite driven, because you've worked with me. I'm very productive. I do things quite quickly, especially when I'm kind of coming up to my bleed, like get everything done. So there's no reason for woman to be yin and a man to be yang. And my experience of you, actually, in a very positive way, is the softer yin. I see a very powerful yin in you.
Thank you. And you're right, you know, it's just like no one is good or is bad or is dark or light. We are a mixture of everything. And it is a real honor and privilege to be able to kind of hold that space and, you know, recognize and acknowledge that we all have that, and they all need expression and they all need to come out. Yeah. So how did you come up with the idea for this workshop anyway?
It came from seeing something that you were doing that was very connected to men working with men. And it kind of brought to the fore actually my aversion to the practices that are powerful, and my feeling that if I'm going to explore them more, I'd like to explore them with someone that I feel that would hold that container well. And I really love and find very powerful and healing for myself the yin practices. So I've had moments in my life where I've been in a position where the only practices I could be with were the gentle breathing practices, and they have been transformative and powerful in my own life, and they are my go-to practices daily. So
that's something I found as a facilitator as well, as a conscious breathwork facilitator, which is very transformative. There's always the tendency to push and to strive and to kind of break through, but the most powerful experiences I think I have had, and for many of my breathers, is not where you kind of push and you strive and you kind of put in effort. It's all about the surrendering. It's all about the opening. It's all about the just letting and the being.
Yeah.
One of my mentors, Jamie Catto, who is a guy as well, obviously, but he really almost puts the yin side of that kind of that creative side, that feminine side, at the forefront of everything creative, and for that to happen, he really believes that is the kind of the primal space of creativity.
Yeah, that is my experience of the yin practices.
Yeah, and I think I probably agree with it.
Yeah.
It's a letting happen.
Well, you can actively plant the seed of creativity within a yin practice.
So yeah. Yin sometimes takes effort.
It's not really effort, because what happens is that there's a seed that's planted, and it's the taking the effort out of it, it's taking the head out of it, that allows the freedom of creativity to grow. Yeah. Definitely. So is there anything that you would like to share as a kind of like a final nugget on the yang side of breath?
Well, I'd just like to share about, and we've talked about the yin and the yang, but we haven't talked very much about breath work, because this is going to be a yin and a yang of breath work. Now, many people are really familiar with yoga and the kind of the yin yoga and then the flowing dynamic yoga. But breath work as an art, as a discipline, isn't so well known. I'd just like to say it's incredibly powerful and profound and immediate and accessible. It's something that anyone can do. You know, whatever you look like, whatever your physical health is, whatever your emotional state is, it is an extraordinary power and discipline and art and experience to have breathwork. So if you haven't experienced breathwork before, this workshop will be a beautiful introduction to just some of the practices that are available. And there are so many more, but they're all beautiful. And it's an incredible journey. I came to it through yoga. And it's not just pranayama. It's not just breathing in through your noses or pumping your belly. There's a lot more to it than that. Oh, I shouldn't say that to a yogi, should I?
A lot more to pranayama. I mean, pranayama is a word for being with the breath that can be used. The practices that are within that are, it's all breath work. It's all connecting to the breath. So I can feel the passion for the world in which you share breath. there is equal profundity wherever we're coming.
There is. Breathwork isn't the only path. There's, so many other ones. And I'm really looking forward to this, Julia, dancing with this in the workshop. Can you just remind me and everyone else the dates that the workshop's happening?
The date is the 2nd of July.
2nd of July.
Canada time, something extremely early in the morning, and UK time 1:30 till 3:30, and absolutely we will be introduced, if you are being introduced for the first time, to the power of breath work and the joy of the breathing practices that are shared within the world of yoga and can be extremely powerful wherever you are. Sometimes the word pranayama in itself can put people off because it's not an English word, and it's lovely to have it's breathing.
Yeah.
Breathing, and it's breathing in a still or passive position and breathing with dynamism, and the power that both of those can offer.
Exactly. Oh, well, thank you, Julia. It's been lovely to have this, because we're recording this. I've just got out of bed, actually. I'll be honest about this. So it's a lovely thing to come and talk about my passion first thing in the morning. It's really fired me up for the day. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you. And thank you for being with us. And I look forward to seeing you for the workshop.
Bye-bye, Julia. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.